Hey everyone, we're back with another episode of How to Get My Job. We sit down with amazing people within the design and product industry and ask them how their careers started, evolved, and what advice they have for those coming after them. Joining us today is Celine Capaldo, a UX researcher at iTech Media. Hey Celine, how are you doing?
Hi everyone, really well, thanks Danielle. Thank you so much for having me today. It's really nice to be here and share what I've learned so far.
Amazing. So let's jump into it with the first question, which is, how did you get your first job as a UX researcher?
I studied international business and psychology at university in the US, so I always had an interest in the field of psychology. But it wasn't until 17 years later that I started to use it more practically, I guess, as a UX researcher. And in that time, between sort of university and where I am now, I've enjoyed quite a few career squigglies. I worked in the property industry in central London for about 10 years and spent quite a few of those years working for an asset management company as an executive assistant, and eventually helped out looking after private clients, property searches, and fund investors. I also had the opportunity to work alongside the head of research and marketing in sort of creating local research reports on property markets across Southwest London as part of my role. And it's funny to look back and see where I had begun to sow seeds without realizing it. I then moved over into the world of tech startups, working as a senior executive assistant for a company called Pollen. And it was with this company that I had the opportunity to go for a junior UX research role that was being offered internally, which was really, really fortunate. I remember at the time speaking to various people in the company and who, had that role. And I was just really curious and intrigued by this area where psychology meets technology, where you can speak with users and take these observations and data to build great products. And I was hooked. And I found that there were a lot of transferable skills. And I think for anyone starting out, it's really important to leverage these. For me, it was about time management, handling multiple competing priorities, client management, which lends itself really nicely to stakeholder management in many ways, and working and collaborating in fast-paced environments. But I was really super fortunate to be led by fantastic, passionate colleagues and mentors across product and design. And they really helped set really strong foundations. I think many people find their way into UX, whether it's UX research or writing, across lots of different fields and backgrounds. And there's a bit of a pay it forward mentality almost, someone helped me to get to where I am. And I want to do the same. And I think generally speaking, people love to help. So I would say, don't be afraid to ask for a coffee chat. There's endless resource out there. And I think it's just about being open to asking for help. But I think the environment itself lends itself really nicely to building up your network, which is super important in those early days, especially.
I really love what you said about how collaborative the community is, but also how open to helping each other everyone is in that community. That's something I personally love about the design community as a whole. UX researching UX research, a lot of people have heard this term thrown around but not know what it is or what's involved. So what would be great to know is, what does a UX researcher do?
I think a user experience researcher's job boils down to helping teams understand a product, what it does and what it could do. So user researchers utilize different methodologies and use the data gathered to deliver actionable insights that fill in the gaps in knowledge to help guide product and design decisions. And we are basically enabling decisions to be made on evidence rather than on guesswork. And we achieve this by being the voice of the user. That's something you'll see time and time again. But we are basically the advocates for the people who use a product or service, and we're uncovering their motivations, their behaviors, pain points, and their needs by listening and observing. And it's important to mention that UX research is not a sort of one-off job to be done. It's ideally continuous and iterative and incorporated at sort of multiple stages in the product development cycle, and it's ongoing. This is often an ideal that organizations are striving and working towards, but it's our job to help guide this learning and progress teams towards understanding how we work, continuously evangelizing research and selling the value of the research that we do. But yeah, to sum it up, we're basically consultants that guide the UX process, but it's so much more than that. We're also teachers. We provide support and we inspire teams. We guide teams on what good design looks like and best practices, for example. We support strategy by informing product roadmaps. And we also, ideally, are inspiring teams by getting them to ask more questions and sparking debate and, considering further research.
Wow, that sounds like a lot of hard work. It sounds very rewarding, but it sounds like a lot of hard work. And it definitely involves more than what I imagined. And I guess what a lot of listeners may have imagined as well. You are the advocate for the user. Your job is to make the products more accessible and just like a better experience for everyone using them. What would be great to know, Celine, is what are the most important qualities a UX researcher could have?
So I think it comes down to soft skills, but I think if you were to look at lots of job specs, you'd see some common themes, and they'd be, empathy, which is the key to understanding people, their needs and their pain points. You'd see critical thinking, problem solving, strong communication, organization, as well as time management, and then just being naturally curious and interested in people and their behaviors. But some other qualities and skills I think that are maybe not listed, or this is at least my opinion, are things like having a growth mindset. I think when you are continuously looking to improve your skills, that shows a lot of that helps you to grow, obviously, but it's an intangible quality, an intangible skill. But yeah, leaving your ego at the door and being humble as well. I think persuasiveness and the ability to influence teams while at the same time being neutral. It's a quality that takes time to strengthen and improve. But I think so neutrality to the degree that you don't want to be too opinionated. So our job is to be the voice of the user and share insights based on qualitative and quantitative data.
Amazing. Yeah, no, you've definitely provided us with a lot of food for thought there. Using evidence over opinion helps you get to the crux of the problem and be able to hopefully solve that problem. But yeah, that all sounds great, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners will find that really helpful. And yeah, that also leads quite nicely onto our next question and our final question, which is, what's the best career advice you've ever been given?
Finding a company that matches your values and going after that rather than salary or name is important for job satisfaction and just pursuing something that you're passionate about. When you're first starting out, it's not always this easy, especially as the field of UX can be really challenging to find that initial role. We don't always get to choose the companies we want to work for straight away. Maybe we do, maybe some of us do, but it's, I guess, about working towards aligning your values and working on that over time, understanding what your values are as well. I guess regardless of where you are, you can find a thing that you're passionate about and pursue that. But yeah, keep learning, be curious, keep asking questions. There are so many resources available, including podcasts. Awkward Silences is a great one. It's put out by a platform, a user research platform called User Interviews. I think it's done by them, but they just get great, just awesome people on, big companies like Google and whatnot. And it's pitched at the right level as well. So it's you don't feel like it's too smart or too inflated or too intelligent to sort of, get anything from it. So yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, I think there's so many resources available, podcasts, books, there's so many communities out there, lots of conferences, and just lots of great people to follow on LinkedIn and Twitter that help to develop the language and keep you up to date with the world of UX and design and just product in general. And I find that like once I started following a couple of people on those networks, it opened up, my network as a whole, my follower network even more. But yeah, I think the final point, I think, ask for help. Do not be afraid to ask for help. A challenge that I've personally faced is imposter syndrome. And on that point, I think for me, pushing myself out of my comfort zone has helped with imposter syndrome, because it's helped to sort of become more confident and self-assured the more I do that. But yeah, I think don't be afraid to talk about it and never think that you're alone. But to echo what other podcasters have said, I'd love to hear from you. Please reach out. I'd love to connect.
Amazing. Thank you, Celine. That's such a really positive message to end on. To echo what you said, you're not alone, and there are amazing communities out there, of which you've mentioned quite a few, who are willing to share and help. So yeah, thank you so much, Celine, for being a guest on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. And we did it.
Yeah, thank you. And until next time, bye.